Meeting order of the Houston Land Bank. It's 12:02 p.m. on July 29th, 2020. We are holding this meeting via video conference as allowed by the executive order made by Governor Abbott on March 16th, 2020. This meeting will be recorded and posted publicly at a later date for public review. One housekeeping thing I want to make clear: when we call for a vote, if there is no response from the board members, we will assume that is an aye vote. If you'd like to make a nay vote or an abstention, please make it known via video and or audio or the chat to make sure that we know that we want to record your vote correctly. That'll help move the meeting along and make sure we get everybody's vote done. We'll go ahead and start with the roll call. I'm going to call this kind of like a classroom, so we don't have to go around and see who speaks next. So Matt Zeiss, present. Vice Chair David Collins.
Here.
Here. Jesus de Anda.
Present.
Victor Mondragon.
Present.
Lori Vignot.
Present.
Thank you. Pastor Steve Hall. Don't believe is present yet. John David Vasquez.
Here, present.
Councilmember Carol Galloway.
Present.
Thank you. Director Courtney Johnson Rose. Don't believe is here today. Secretary Mario Castillo.
Present.
Thank you. It's Tony Jackson.
Present.
Thank you. Curtis Lampley.
Present.
And Ana Yanez Cortez. I don't believe is here today. We also have three new advisory committee members, or advisory board members. Nicholas Ferron.
Present.
Do you go by Nick or Nicholas?
Nick.
Nick, okay. Elijah Williams.
I am present.
Good to see you, Elijah.
See you well.
And Kellen Zale. I don't believe he'll be joining us today. Okay, so we do have a quorum. Moving on to item number 2, public speakers. I don't believe we had anybody signed up. Is that correct, Dan?
No one registered. We do, appears we have some people in the room.
Okay. It looks like Pastor Steve Hall has just joined us as well. Moving on to the minutes. They were adopted on minutes for the budget workshop on June 4th and the regular meeting on June 11th. The only change I would like to make is that the signature on these minutes should be the secretary, not the president. So we can have those changed to make sure the secretary is signing off on these minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made by Director Castillo. We have a second.
Second by Jesus de Anda.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any other changes?
Hey, Matt, point of clarification.
Yes.
Those of us new folks, since we haven't quite been sworn in yet, should we abstain from voting from this one? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
And since you were not there at the meeting, I'm assuming that you would not be able to vote on this. So,
Yeah, that was the other. I certainly read the minutes, but cannot validate any of it. So, yep.
That's correct.
And actually, I'd like to introduce Gracie Sines, who's our board governance counsel. So direct questions like that would be directed to her, just for new people that don't know that yet.
Thank you.
Pastor Hall signing on.
Pastor Hall, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Matt, just for the record again, on the approval of the minutes, who moved them and who seconded?
Director Castillo moved and Director de Anda seconded.
Okay.
Director Collins?
Did you call for the vote?
I have not yet. We're in discussion right now.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 4, Chairman's greeting. Well, thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate dedicating your time to this organization. I know the meetings are kind of the short part of the dedication we do to this. I want to welcome our new board members and our new advisory members. Really looking forward to getting some new perspectives on our organization and see where we can go and where we've been and where we can go. This has been a cause for me for quite a while. I've been on the board since early 2016, and seeing it change from the Land Assemblage Redevelopment Authority into Houston Land Bank. And we've ushered in a lot of different changes, and I've helped with some of those and haven't helped with others. It's really exciting time, especially now, to see the growth we've been building to really start to take off. So I'm really excited about the direction we're heading and the directions we can go. I have want to let everybody know that the strategic planning sessions are coming up probably in late August and early September. This is going to be a great time for existing board members or old board members to look back and see what we've been doing. And then for the new board members to get educated about our program and our organization, and get some fresh ideas on where we can go next. It's unfortunately going to be all done virtually. We're still working on details about how to do that effectively and make sure everybody's time is used to the best that we can. But I think we've got a really good coordinator in place and really good support from staff and from some of our other departments we work with to make sure that it goes off well. I'm excited about our first class of our advisory board committee. This is a thing we established with our new bylaws a couple of years ago that we haven't exercised yet. So it's going to be interesting to see how we can involve these new folks into our board activities, into our planning, into our meetings, and kind of our day-to-day operations. So I want to thank you all for volunteering to serve on that, and we look forward to all your unique contributions. I also want to thank our past chair, Nick Hall. As many of you know, I worked really closely with Nick for many years, developing the programs and trying to improve this organization. He was a friend of mine, or is a friend of mine, and I look forward to leaning on him in the future as well. So he will certainly be missed. Lastly, I want to take a point of personal privilege here and remember a friend of mine who passed away from COVID back in late May, a friend named Keith Wade. I think many of you know him, and he was an advisor to 2 different mayors and to countless others, including my wife and myself. And he was just a really great man, a great family man who will certainly be missed, especially now from me. He just had a way of managing and coordinating people and interests that was just unmatched. So I'll definitely miss him greatly. So with that, I want to make sure everybody remains safe, stay at home, and wear a mask, and let's just power through this COVID thing. So moving on, I think we have some swearing in of some reappointments, some new appointments, and some advisory board members. So Gracie, will you give me the honors?
I would like to take this opportunity to, first of all, welcome everyone, all the new board members, and of course, all our other members who have been reappointed. So as of right now, Anne, could you call out the names of the individuals for the appointments?
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, Anne, sorry.
No, you can go ahead, Matt. I give you the honor.
Matt?
Okay, so first, position 1, David Collins, being reappointed as vice chair. Position 2, Victor Mondragon. Position 3 is Matt Zeiss, myself, appointed as chair. Position 4 is Jesus de Anda. And position 5 is Lori Vignot. Do we want to do board members and advisory board members separately, or do you want to do it at the same time?
Let's do them separately, okay? So if I could, and I know that we have Mark Lanowski, who is normally the individual that gives the notarization. So Anne, you will have that documentation later to give to Mark. So what I will do at this time, in this wonderful Zoom moment, is to have all of you raise your right hand, and then state after me. I state your name,
I,
Aye. Matt Zeiss.
Lori
Jesus
Goodnight.
Downer,
do solemnly swear
Do
Do
solemnly
solemnly
Do
swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of board member
that I will
That I will
faithfully
faithfully
that I will
execute the
faithfully
office
the
of board
office
member
of
the
board
office
member
of board member
of the Houston Land Bank
of the
of
Houston
the Houston Land
of the
Bank,
Houston Land Bank,
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my
to
ability,
the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and
preserve,
defend
and defend
this office
this
this
office,
office,
this office
of the state of Texas
the laws
the
of the state of
Texas,
Texas,
and the Constitution of the United States,
and the
and the
Constitution
Constitution
of the United
Constitution of the
States.
United States.
so help me God.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gracie.
So nice to hear together.
Now our advisory board members.
For the advisory board members, we have Nick Ferran. Ferran or Ferran?
Ferran.
Ferran. Nick Ferran, Mr. Elijah Williams, and Ms. Kellen Zale, who I don't believe is with us today.
Not today.
Well, Nick and Elijah, welcome. And as you have already seen the exercise performed, let's do that for you now. Okay, raise your right hand. And I
I,
state your name,
Nick Ferran,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of advisory board member
the office of advisory board member
of the Houston Land Bank,
of the Houston Land Bank,
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
this office and the laws of the state of Texas and the Constitution of the United States.
this office and the laws of the state of Texas and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Great. Congratulations all.
Thank you all. Welcome. Okay, moving on. Item number 6A. I'm actually going to pull this item from the agenda for now. We, in talking with some board members, we had some concerns about not having enough information to make an educated decision on this. So we're scheduling a meeting next week with the Center for Community Progress to describe more of what their function is and what value they can deliver to the board and to the organization. So we'll reconsider this at a later time, hopefully in the August meeting. But I just wanted to give an explanation as to why I'm pulling this down.
That's good.
Mr. Collins,
Good idea.
okay, thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure we have a letter from Center for Community Progress and a memo on the board packet, but I just want to make sure we get some FaceTime with them to make sure we're all on the same page about what value they're delivering to us for the money. So we'll work on that next month. So item 6B and C. This is a clarification of a vote we took at the previous board meeting. And you have a memo regarding this in the last 3 pages of your board packet around this. I think we need a motion and a second before we can start discussion.
Well,
I'd like to have some discussions before we consider a vote.
Okay.
On item, can we move to item C? Can we
Yeah,
take-
so
Can we take them both at the same time?
we can take them at the same time. We can take them separately. It depends.
Okay, for discussion purposes, item C, the motion was not written to have a time frame for the continuation of services. The motion that was approved was for a motion to approve the continuation of services for accounting, bookkeeping, and legal services for FY year 2021, and not for a time frame ending on December 31st, 2020. So the budget cycle is different from the budget cycle is different from the annual calendar year.
Correct.
in addition to that, it was proposed for Ann to negotiate a new contract, and I don't have a problem with that.
Yes.
So
And I
the
think-
motion as it was passed, it was not,
Should we read the minutes?
really, yeah,
The motion that was passed in the minutes was a motion of Vice Chairman Collins to adopt the proposed HLB fiscal year 21 budget with the conditions that the current consultants for bookkeeping, accounting, and legal be retained by HLNB at their current levels was taken duly second by Director Jackson and passed with unanimous vote of the board.
correct. And the issue I have with that motion and that approval is that I don't believe it's appropriate for the board to decree which vendors are paid what amount of money without a competitive bid process in place and without negotiation of the contracts.
Well, we can clear that up. Just renegotiate the contract and tell us what it is.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Just renegotiate the contract as Ann proposes and tell us what it is. Don't have a problem with that.
But they have been procured, and this was simply an extension.
That's
They
right.
have been procured. We
just-
hired them in the first place under procurement, and it is not inappropriate and nor uncommon in a public setting that contracts get extended on a month to month, as we discussed. But their contracts we already procured them initially.
These were procured in 2000, depending on the contract, 15 and 17, based on a particular set of scope and circumstances, and then extended, although I did look back to find the formal extension vote, which I was unable to find. It was on the agenda in 2017 and tabled at that time. I continued to do the research to find the extension, and I think the intent here is procedural, because there were essentially two actions that were merged into one action at that board vote. And so what we're trying to do is actually maintain the budget vote and the actual request to extend month to month on the existing contractors. So today is a procedural vote. We are talking with the existing contractors on scope and a new contract for them based on the interest of the board to maintain relationship with those vendors. And we will bring those contracts back to the board when we have them negotiated.
If that's what we have in mind, I don't have a problem with it.
Would you repeat that, Mr. Collins? I didn't hear
Yeah, I
you.
didn't hear you, David.
But basically, if you need to approve the budget, amend the budget, that's what this motion is about, right, Mrs. Ice?
Yes.
Correct. It's about amending the budget to increase the expenditures in those categories so that we can essentially afford the existing contractors at the existing rate for the fiscal year.
And as you negotiate, maybe you negotiate a better deal and there may not be
Correct.
a cost increase, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And these two actions essentially reflect that motion, reflect that ability. I don't believe at the June meeting reflected that intent.
Well, I beg to disagree, but that's okay.
Yeah, I disagree as well, but that's neither here nor there, but that was the intent of the motion in last month.
Yeah, I thought the motion was very clear.
So
Yeah, I'm not understanding why we're revisiting this, because I thought it was clear as well.
So to get rid of the impasse, I don't have a problem with recommending.
I think the motion stands as read.
Right, I agree. And what we're doing today is amending the motion to accommodate a increase in budget or a decrease in budget and renegotiation of the contract, and that's fine.
okay. So what I hear you saying is that we have agreement on item B, but not on item C. Or letter B, but not letter C.
Well, I think the issue with item C is that it states it has language that was not part of the original motion,
Right.
Okay.
and the time period does not coincide with the fiscal year. And so therefore that needs to be clarified
Or amended.
or amended.
So I will say that the month-to-month part of this was not in the original motion either.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not certain why this is being revisited when the motion from June was clear and it stated that they were that we were adopting the budget with those professionals being retained at their current levels. And I mean, and I work for a number of public entities, and if I am out of contract, that contract is extended on a month-to-month basis or on a set schedule at the rate in which I was originally retained. And there is a new procurement, or at least I am asked to provide additional information for there to be an amendment to my contract. And I think that the motion was very clear that we indicated that they would be retained at their current levels until new persons were selected under a new procurement. So we seem to be going backwards from what the intent and what the very clear purpose was.
We're not going backwards. We're trying to clarify the intent of that vote in a way.
But I don't understand the clarification, and that's my point. I mean, it's clear. It says, and they will be retained at their current levels. So what is there to clarify? It says, I mean, the language, I mean, I'm looking at the minutes and it says it very clear. The motion was to adopt the budget with the condition that the current consultants be retained at their current levels. What part of that is unclear?
Because we are currently in a procurement process right now. And if that board motion stands, we cannot continue that procurement process until the end of this fiscal year, which would be June 30th, 2021.
That's not true, Matt, because the current procurement process has nothing to do with maintaining their services until we select new counsel, new accountant, new bookkeeping. One has nothing to do with the other. We keep them on board at their current rate because they have their contract has expired. We're simply extending it until new services are procured at their current rate.
Okay.
Again, I mean, I do this on a regular basis. That I work with public entities, and when I am out of contract, my time is simply extended at the current rate in which I was originally contracted, and that stands until new procurement. There's nothing, going through a procurement process, which we are in the process of, does not interrupt us making the decision to keep them until that new process is completed.
Okay.
Why would we want to interrupt those services if we have not completed a procurement process?
We're not interrupting.
There's no intent to interrupt. The way I read the original vote was that, and it says, the condition that current outside consultants providing services for bookkeeping accounting are maintained in their current levels, maintained in place in their current levels. That to me read that it would be maintained through the fiscal year. That's where I had issue.
No, it's maintained until new procurement is secured and finalized.
So if we want to amend item C to say that, I would feel much more comfortable about that vote.
As a lawyer who does this, I don't agree that the motion needs to be done. I will defer to my colleagues, but I disagree. I think we're tainting it by, I think we are confusing the issue. I don't think that motion needs to be made. I disagree that motion needs to be made because that is understood that once we have initiated a procurement process, it is clear and understood that their services are only valid through the time which we secure new services. It doesn't mean that they stay forever. It simply means that we're extending the contract that they're currently under because they are out of contract. And once we procure new services and put that on the agenda for a vote because we have selected new people, their contracts are done. They are essentially on a month-to-month contract at this point. They are serving at our pleasure until the time in which we have selected new people. And particularly because they also, each of these professionals have the right and the ability to actually submit proposals under the new procurement.
Absolutely.
With
Can
that
I
being
ask-
said, with that being said, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve item D and table item C. And the motion that was made June, back in June, stands as is.
I
Okay.
second that.
May
Okay,
I ask a question?
please.
And obviously I wasn't part of the initial conversation, so it's really a point of clarity for me. And in listening to what Tony just shared relative to the month to month, it almost sounds as though item C accurately reflects what the contract is, how the contract would be moving forward. If the existing contract is not being renewed, and if they are being retained until new services are secured, would it not be interpreted that the contract will be moving from a month-to-month basis? Although, because my next follow-up question would be, based on their original contract, is there any stipulation in their existing contract, if we're extending it, that it would be understood or perceived that it would be for another year or till the end of the next term? And are there any requirements for notification at that point for terminating the extension? I guess when Tony said it would be understood that it's month to month, I go right back to item number C, and it actually states that. So I'm just trying to get clarity as to where is the difference.
And for me, Lori, from a pure legal, the difference is that it's essentially duplicative action, so therefore it's not needed. That's the difference for me. We are, I don't see it as being needed because it was clear last month. Again, that's my legal opinion. I stand by it, but if the board wants to move forward and do this, but I have seconded the motion that C be tabled.
Okay. So we have one motion for both items on the table has properly been made and seconded. I again reiterate that I would feel much more comfortable. I now hear the intent of the board members as to the original motion, that it was to be month to month. I would feel much more comfortable as chair if that was in writing and made as an action by the board, relevant or irrelevant. I would feel much more comfortable in doing that so as to avoid any future liabilities with this. Is there any
Again,
further discussion?
I don't think it's necessary. Again, the original motion was clear. What I think staff may have done is created some concerns with the process of moving through the procurement process with these services and not having fully vested the board members into that decision-making process. So I think that's part of some of the confusions and concerns with this issue.
Okay.
I respectfully disagree with you, Matt.
That's fair.
Hey, just quick point of clarification. Tony, I want to revisit one thing that you said. You said that a revision of this action item would I believe you said taint the relationship with the current contractors. Could you further explain that thought?
I said taint our process. I mean, I think we're clear last month in terms of what we have done. I don't think that there is necessary for us to backstep our own process. That's what I meant. I said taint our process. And if I said with the vendors, I mistook. I meant tainting our own process.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
I would think that based on simple, in terms of the appropriate process, and the action that had already been taken, that our ED would be sending a letter to these vendors to indicate that there is currently a procurement that is open and that they are welcome to apply. However, because of that process, their services are being extended until the time in which that a new vendor is selected. And that would put in writing what we are doing here, because that should be done. Because even if we move on this today, if that part of the process isn't done, i.e. them being notified and it being put in writing what is being done, then we can make a motion every month and we still haven't fixed the situation as it relates to documenting the files and documenting the relationship with those vendors.
To make it clear, we've had an open procurement process for legal services, which would include our current vendors and add some additional scopes of expertise. We have not done a procurement process for the accounting and bookkeeping. We have been in conversation with them about refining the scope for a formal recontracting process. And absolutely the point of this vote, which was to take the motion plus vote on the budget, and create kind of two board actions out of one, because really one was about budget approval and the motion was then about a procurement process. So technically they should be two separate board actions. We didn't post a procurement item on that original June board meeting. So the intent with putting the clarification here today was absolutely not to step backward. It was simply to create a little bit more clarity on term and intent of the month to month on the current vendor contracts, and then approve the budget and increase it to be able to account for maintaining the existing contractors at their current levels if we aren't otherwise renegotiating their contract. So the intent here was procedural, and it was to put some additional clarification on that procedure. And absolutely, we have been in contact and will be in contact with the existing vendors as the board intent is. But since some of their contracts are from many, many years ago, and there's a lot of change, there really is a discussion around refining that scope and fee for going forward, and those contracts will come to the board.
And I understand that the procurement is changing the scope, and that is standard. That's generally what procurement is doing, because over time scope does change.
Yeah.
But can you clarify, when you say you've been in touch, has that being in touch been in writing?
I do not believe it's been in writing. We were hoping for this vote clarification to provide very specific information to the existing vendors. We've basically been on hold with that extension. We have had verbal conversations with bookkeeper, I believe to a degree with legal, but we've been on hold with that until clarification of the vote. And I think, besides just today's vote, we've had subsequent conversation between the June meeting and July with some of you all, just to kind of really understand what the board's intent was and make sure that we understand how to create the procedural motion that we think is appropriate in this case.
Mr. Chair, I would just venture to say that is what is most important at this point, is that the staff be in written communication with the vendors. I think the motion is clear, but it is necessary, particularly given what your concerns are, is that the vendors be notified and communicated with in writing, because I think that speaks bigger to your concerns than just our minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jackson. I hear your concerns.
Can we have a repeat of the motion that is on the table?
So the motion is to approve item 6B and table item 6A. And from my perspective, I believe the board's intent is clear on the month-to-month issue, which was my general concern.
Mr. Chair, I thought 6A was pulled.
I'm sorry, yeah, 6A was pulled. So we're talking about 6B, or to approve 6B and table 6C.
That's correct.
So from my perspective, I believe the month-to-month issue has been addressed, which was my main concern in this. We've broken up the two items from a board approval of the budget with amendments and the procurement issue. Are there any other discussions?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on. Item number 7. This is the acquisitions of lots from Catholic Charities Community Development Corporation. Do we need to move to executive session immediately for this discussion?
Yeah. So I need to pause the recording, and people who are not the board or immediately involved will be put in the waiting room during this session.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
So Mary, I believe, is moving the guests into the waiting room.
And I would suggest that the board members be moved into a separate room, since this meeting was allowed for the public, as opposed to moving the guests into a waiting area. To put us in a separate breakout room, so because this was accessed by the public, and even though you will be putting them in a waiting room, it's better to move the board members into the breakout room.
That's a great suggestion, Tony. Unfortunately, I do not believe we have that meeting. Like, we can't move ourselves to a breakout room. I don't have that service on this Zoom. I did not know that technique. I apologize. So unfortunately, we will have to accommodate it this way for this particular session. We will be bringing them back into the room for the vote as per the general executive session meeting laws. And for the future, we will get the breakout room capacity so that we can do that.
All the guests are in the waiting room. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
So 2 items here, item A and item B. Item A are lots that we are repurchasing from Catholic Charities from the original, I believe, the LARA program when we issued these lots to them. And then item B are 3 lots that we are purchasing that they made available to us in Independence Heights.
Do we still have staff people that are on this meeting that probably need to also be moved over?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Yeah, we have people that aren't supposed to be in here.
Yes, staff that are not immediately involved in this should also be moved, Mary.
Okay, I will move them right now.
Including Mary. Is it possible, is she?
I think because I'm a co-host,
Yeah.
and I'm the one managing the participants.
No, I can move you into the waiting room, Mary.
Oh,
So,
okay. Thank you.
I can. Okay. So actually, I guess I have to remove some co-hosts as I then move them into the waiting room. So,
Yes, that's correct.
sorry about that. It'll take me 2 seconds. You have to scroll, so it's just a little bit lower. Liza, Victor. With Zoom, you can't organize people in groups, so. Doris has been involved in the acquisition, so she will remain on the line as staff.
This is agenda item 7 or agenda item 8? Because on the attachment, it says agenda item 8.
Yes, that is a great point, Jesus. Item 7 on the agenda. And then I think because the memos reflect the July 9th meeting agenda where they would have been item 8. So thank you for that typo. I caught that. But these are on today's agenda, it is item 7. Oh, hold on, one more here. And again, I apologize for the speed at which I can operate this Zoom. Okay, so I think all of the staff are now removed from the room. I'm going to pause the recording.
Okay. Thank you, Ann. We are back from the executive session. It is now 1:20 p.m. on July 29th, 2020. And we will continue with the public agenda. Item up for consideration is item 7A. Do we have a motion?
Motion, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move that we repurchase items A1 through 5 from Catholic Charities to be placed in our traditional housing lot sales program at the cost of $39,680.
Thank you, Director Bentley. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Director Castillo. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item for consideration is 7B. Consideration of possible action to purchase of 3 properties totaling 20,015 square feet from Catholic Charities Development Corporation for $200,000. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I vote to table this motion until the next meeting.
Second.
And until receipt of a commitment from the housing department.
Second motion, Carol Galloway.
Okay, the motion is to table item 7B, probably made by Director Jackson and seconded by Director Galloway. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 8, board member comments.
I'm tired.
Director Collins, sorry.
I just said I'm tired. I don't have any.
You're fine.
I have one. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to serve with all of you. I'm really excited to be one of your new board members and looking forward to working with everybody on very productive and meaningful affordable housing initiatives. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to welcome all the new board members aboard.
I have a comment here.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to also welcome all the new board members and glad that we have some people on here that I do know, and I'm just so happy to see Laurie and all the other newcomers. And welcome aboard. You in for a good ride. That's all.
Miss Galloway, I echo that.
I can see it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I echo the same. Looking forward to working with all the new board members.
I'm honored and excited to be joining. Thank you very much.
All right. Any further board member comments?
No.
Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Directed by motion, probably made by Director Lampley, seconded by Director Mondragon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. It is 1:24 p.m. Thank you all for your participation.
Yeah.